1946. For the first time in a long time, the New Year's Eve is celebrated all over the place. This is how the new year is welcomed in the mountains. With a whip and a mask dance and a strong sip to the year 1946. No kitchen, appliances, and steel helmets become strainers for the household. The weaponsmiths of the world no longer produce what humanity fears, but what it needs. The first major war crimes trial begins. In Dachau, 40 people have been charged in front of an American military court for the killing and abuse of thousands of concentration camp inmates and Allied prisoners of war. The main defendant being accused is Martin Gottfried Weiss. The former commander and 35 other accused were sentenced to death by hanging. In the American-occupied zone of Germany, the first free municipal elections took place after 13 long years. The participation in the elections was 87%. In the end, the Christian Socialist Union won. The sport lives on. Over 50,000 spectators saw in Stuttgart the first big interzone match between South Germany and West Germany. In both teams there were experienced international players involved, such as Kupfer, Kitzinger, Wiener in the south and Tobolski. A classic game that South Germany won 3-0. The first blast furnace in the American zone. Blast furnace number 1 of the over 200-year-old company Buderus in Wetzlar. Steel production is on. Steel is the backbone of the economy. And smoke blast from the furnaces. The fight against the people's victim, Schwarzmarkt, was carried out everywhere with unwavering fervor. In Berlin, the area around the Brandenburg Gate was the center of the black trade, until the police arrived and arrested buyers and sellers in a large number of shippers and smugglers. A victorious battle in the field against the people's enemy, Schwarzmarkt. Germany is dependent on food supplies from abroad. Food supplies from America, England, and other countries arrive on foot. In Hamburg, wheat is exported from overseas. School meals play an important role in the problem of food for the people. During his stay in Germany, South Africa's Prime Minister, Max, visited one of the school meals of the British aid work. The Berlin Zoo is being moved to the vegetable garden. 400 morgues of the former parking lot, devastated by the war, are being plowed. In the past, the zoo was used for recreation, but now for nutrition. Now there's air traffic again, New York, Berlin. On the Tempelhof airfield, the first passenger plane lands, the 4-engine flagship Amsterdam, after a 23-hour flight. Berlin is back on the international flight network. In the course of the year, German prisoners of war returned home in increasing numbers. They came from America, England, Russia, and French camps. This transport brought 700 Berliners back to their hometown. A platform full of happy people. In Berlin, the Allied Control Council holds regular meetings. The commanders-in-chief of the four powers are Marshal Sokolovsky of Russia, General McNarney of America, Air Marshal Sir Sholto Douglas of England, and General Koenig of France. The Reconstruction is constantly moving forward. Every city is developing its own method of demolition and reconstruction. First, the ruins have to be removed. Then millions of cubic meters of rubble have to be removed. Thousands of people work every day in all zones to rebuild their hometowns. Cleaning up and rebuilding is the rhythm that determines the working year of 1946. In Stuttgart, the American foreign minister held his grand address. He declared that America wanted a permanent peace that would give Germany the opportunity to secure a respected place among the nations through diligence and work. Foreign Minister Burns demanded that apart from the economic reunification of Germany, the formation of the central administrative offices and a progressive German government. On the question of the occupation, he said, "We are not withdrawing. As long as the presence of occupation troops in Germany is necessary, the Army of the United States will form part of this occupation force." In the rural communities and small towns of the British zone, the first free elections took place after 13 years. Representatives were elected for the municipalities and offices. In the city and country, the election participation was very regular. In the end, the Christian Democratic Union took the first place in front of the Social Democrats. On October 1st, the Nuremberg trial came to an end in 1945. In 403 public hearings in front of the International Military Court, every case of the 22 defendants has been examined to the smallest detail. Once again, the German development of the past few years has been revealed, and the enormous guilt of the defendants has been revealed from numerous testimonies and thousands of pieces of evidence. The greatest trial in history answered the question of who is guilty. Why is he guilty, and to what extent is he guilty? 4 of the National Socialist organizations were convicted as criminals. The SS, the SD, the Gestapo, and certain groups of the political leaders' corps. 12 of the 22 defendants were sentenced to death. The executions have now taken place. 3 defendants were acquitted, the rest sentenced to prison. Nuremberg, once the city of the party days, became the city of revelation. General Eisenhower, the Chief of Staff of the American Army, visited Germany. In several cities, he had discussions with Allied and German personalities. Departure from the airport Tempelhof, where General Koenig, Ambassador Murphy, General Klee, and other high officers said goodbye to Eisenhower. One of the most tragic consequences of war and Hitler's policies is the refugee problem. $14 million Germans have lost their homes because of the events of the last few years. It was one of the most difficult tasks in 1946 to make these people persistent, to integrate their useful power into the labor process. Much has been done to make the fate of the refugees bearable. Much more remains to be done. Coal is the basic element of economy and reconstruction. In the course of the year, coal production in the Ruhr area gradually but steadily increased. Young, uneducated workers flow into the mines as essential helpers of coal mining. In the Ruhr area, 151 mines are in full operation again. More coal means more life in the economy. The English Foreign Minister, Bevan, and the American Foreign Minister, Burns, signed an agreement at the end of the year that would unite the American and English zones economically. The agreement came into force on January 1st, 1947. This was the first step towards Germany's economic unity. A hopeful political conclusion to the old year that promised a new boost to the economy. The end of the year brings the beginning of the ski season. The first big race on the Zugspitze introduced the competitive competitors. Powder snow, sun, and runners were in the best shape. A sensational start for the new sports year. So that's what the old year looked like. And now, good luck for 1947.